What's up, creatives and filmmakers? I'm Jeremy for Nanlite in Los Angeles, and I want to welcome you to our virtual booth for Profusion Virtual Connect 2020. Over the next couple of days, we'll be talking about new products for 2020 and on-set experiences and testimonials from industry professionals like our upcoming guests, Derek Lamoureux and Nick Pilecki.
Be sure to stay to the end for our Q&A and giveaway, where one lucky winner will be chosen to win a free Light 5C.
All right, so that gives you a little information about the Forza 500. It's a really powerful light. It's something along the lines of like a 2K or 575 HMI, but it can actually run on batteries. We also provide batteries with our Nanlite 26-volt batteries. So you have different sizes from 230 watt hours up to 270 watt hours. And so you can get a little over an hour at 100% using the Forza 500 if you needed to go on DC power. So it's an amazing light that, as you're going to see shortly, that can fulfill a lot of needs and give you a lot of power that's not normally available in a light of this size. So another light that Nick and Derek are going to be using today also includes the Pavotube series. And so we want to show you a little bit about the Pavotube series to give you a little information about those before we get started. And here we go, just a moment.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Derek Lamoureux, and I'm a film director here in Canada. And my name's Nick Pilecki, and I am a cinematographer on mainly commercials here in Canada.
And just to clarify right out of the way, Nick and I are very much in a bubble.
We work in the same office very frequently, so yes, we are in a work bubble, and so if you see us without masks, that is why.
So today we're going to talk about a bunch of different Nanlite products and then break down some scenes that Nick has shot and that I've shot and give you guys a little bit of explanation on how we've used the lights. So let's break down the first couple scenes here. The first thing I kind of wanted to share a story with you guys. So the Forza 500 actually, I rented for a travel shoot, and I used it as my carry-on when we were going to Minnesota for a doc that I'm working on. This is the behind-the-scenes photo. You know, we really didn't have a ton of time to set up. We were in a hockey arena, but the Forza had enough punch to overpower that window that you see there, and also fit in a travel environment where we didn't have access to rentals. We didn't have a ton of gear. So from a travel perspective, it's cool that you can just put a light in your carry-on and be able to use it. Let's jump into using the Forza on a commercial set, actually. Nick was the DP on this one. And one of the things that we wanted to go for was a more stylized look. So let's take a look at some of the footage, and then we'll break it down for you.
So this one here is just selects we pulled from a university commercial here in town. And basically a little more of a stylized kind of like athletic sports shoot. We got a couple of girls fencing here, and it looks nice and moody. So we wanted to play off the best parts of this room, which were like the big windows with the stained glass in them. But the thing was that the drop off to the ground basically beyond this wall was like 20 feet down. So realistically, getting a lamp out there, being it not able to be seen, just like wasn't in the budget, wasn't even a thought in our mind. So we knew we had to bring our lights inside, but still battle the exposure difference with the window. So what we ended up doing was using Forza 500.
Yeah, I think it was a 500.
Yeah, a Forza 500 through like an octabox softbox with a grid on it, over top, just to the right of our, just over top and right of our right talent here. And we basically, like a big method when Derek and I are working is like we usually like to light the scene and do minor adjustments as we're kind of floating through. Just because we know that like you're not always working with professional talent, and once you can kind of like get in a groove, you don't want to be relighting scenes to kind of interrupt the flow.
Yeah, and that was a big one for this one too, is like I said to Nick, I was like, I really want them to just kind of go forward with fencing and not have to worry about when we want to go in for a close-up or change angles that we're going to need to change, lighting a little bit. So we spent the time lighting the scene beforehand, which helped me kind of get what I needed from them because we had such a limited window with the talent.
Yeah, so, and then just so everyone can kind of get an idea, because I'm sure we'll have some BTS pictures popping up on the screen, but basically the Forza 500 through the softbox is coming in like right here and blasting down here, and then it's also angled towards the camera with a grid to help keep it off this back wall. It's kind of gradiating down a bit there, but we didn't mind that look, but really it's angled towards the camera here and like really backlighting our subjects, so you're getting that nice edge right around each of them, a nice 3/4 light there, so it just further separates from the background and really lights the scene so we can kind of jam and they can do their thing and we can do our thing.
Okay, so the next scene here is actually more of a stylistic look on how to use a Forza 500 or a Forza 300. Again, just keeping in mind that this is obviously not going to be the case for every project, but this shot was shot at 8 o'clock at night, which here was fully black outside. So without, anything in the background here, if we didn't have these blue kind of spikes, it'd be a pretty black, plain, frame, and I don't think it would be as enjoyable. So this was actually a last minute thing after we had the candles and the key light all done. I went outside, put a Forza 300 out there, put one, and it didn't really spread it out far enough, so I ended up putting two, one on either side. Gave it a nice even look, and I think when you look at this image, and we'll be breaking down the key light more when we talk about the LEDGO products, but to be able to use just a simple blue light outside and give your look stylized choices is something that I've done when I've shot, and I know Nick does all the time, is to have that contrast separation. The surprising part about this frame, actually, which goes to show, so these Forza 300s were outside with no cone, no Fresnel. They were just bare lights. Ended up raining, so it's probably not great for them. But
they made it.
They made it. And if you look at the behind-the-scenes photo, they're just kind of blasting. And these things are so bright that this, I think, was at like 7%. Like, barely even on, and that's how blue it looked, just because it was so dark inside. But like Nick said, like if you're doing something where you have a ton of level inside too, these Forzas really act as a super bright way to kind of go back and forth and have that level that you need. And if we look at another example from a project, again, part of a university ad that we shot here, we use the Forza a lot as like that extra punch inside. And I think Nick can talk a little bit more about this one. You know, we were going for something high key, and this one was actually lit with 2 G260s and a Forza 300.
Yeah, so for this shot here, this is a university commercial here, and like the big thing that you're setting to always when you're doing one of these bigger rooms is like what you can and can't control, as I'm sure you've heard 1,000 times. So the things we couldn't control here is the output coming through that back kind of bay window. So we set ourselves up for success by coming here at the time of day where we knew the sun would be backlighting that in general, so that stone wall that we see outside of it doesn't light up. But even then, like, you still have to have about 4 stops of ND just to hold those highlights from that window. So if you have 4 stops of ND in your camera to hold a window, you have to make up that output on your subject. So I think what we had here was a key off to the right hand side with 2 G260s color match to Forza 300, I want to say, punching through the middle. And in general, the way I like to do my key lights is the more frontal part of the key light, or the more wrappy part, it's going to be your softer light. So your panels, your double diffusion, and then as you come around to the side of the person's face, you get your more Fresnels, your harder lights, your single diffused panels. So they'll streak across the face and kind of outline the nose, the eye sockets, the ears, and kind of give, like, as we see on this girl's face here, those highlight pings that help push it out and give it like a 3D rendition.
So again, that was more of an interview look. But then if we go to another part of the commercial where we're actually using the same type of setup on this dolly shot here. So in this dolly shot, you see, you know, it's high key, but we're getting those windows in here, and we did the exact same setup here.
Or what we would consider high key.
Yeah, what we consider high key.
Inevitably, clients will still be like, "Is it too dark?" And you're like, "No, it's not. It's fine."
So you guys can look in the BTS. It's really the exact same setup. We literally just moved it from one place to the other. And I think Nick did a great job of kind of making it all match. But we really did need the power of the Forza just to give us that extra punch to be able to hold the windows on, which was a really bright day.
Yeah, I mean, you can plan for sun, but half the time it's not going to play along. And more level is like, because here's one thing that you can always do if you have more level in your light. You can dim it down because it's LED, or with the inverse square law, you can back it up a couple of feet and fill your silk out more. Like, it's never bad to have, if someone's like, that light's too powerful, it's like, well, you're just not putting yourself in the situations yet. And it's a lot easier to take away light than it is to look at a light and be like, just be more, please.
Speaking of a light being more, let's take a look at a music video that we shot. This is called Brigade, and many of you have probably seen it on the Instagram. But this project here actually really needed the Forza's push for power.
Yeah, so this was a super fun. Music videos are usually fun. They're always like passion projects because there's never any money in them per se, and they want the world. But this one was a fun job because it was like, it was an 8-hour shoot day, but it was probably the biggest concept that we've had in a music video for any amount of time. And it kind of all had to live in one day because it's this couple fighting in between rooms, and they're kind of scrapping and actually fighting at like a war level. So we knew going into this shoot that like we couldn't put a lot of fixtures inside the buildings because as the camera's whooshing around the rooms and they're doing their thing, we couldn't see stands, we couldn't see lights, we couldn't see floppies, we couldn't see bounce boards. So all of our lights had to be outside the windows. So we needed more power. So we got a couple of Forza 500s for the shoot. So in this frame here, we see our guy at the computer desk, and we see this nice bright light off to the left that's creating these nice like volumetric light or God beams coming through the window. So haze is your friend here, but basically we have a Forza 500 coming through this window here, and it's streaking in. And then off frame here, there's another window, and we have a Forza 300 kind of adding room ambient in. And they're both pushing this way and doing a pretty good job of creating contrast and interest, and you add haze to the room. And then another thing with this shoot is a lot of our interior lights, since we knew we were going to see the lights, everything interior had to be lit with practicals. So we were just telling people, like, okay, stand here a little closer to this practical during this shot, and kind of like playing off getting creative with compositions in the scene.
I think one thing that's interesting actually from that shot, just remembering the BTS, was the room was actually on the second floor, a little bit higher than a traditional second floor, so the combo stand didn't go that high. So we actually parked my truck and put the light on my truck. So on my truck, the tailgate, we put
Back
the
of
light.
trucks will always buy you a good 3.5 feet of height if you can get a truck up.
So if you're ever looking for like a little hack, just back a truck up, make sure it's safe and sandbag down with like 6 sandbags, and then just put your light up, and you'll get the height you need. So that was the kind of like the big scene in that video, and then there was another scene that it was on the ground floor, and we used the Forza 500 for that too, which is this scene here.
This one here?
Yeah.
So the other part that was like an even more complex part of this music video was the band was going to be playing through the whole house while this couple is having a fight. It helps if you've seen the video. We're talking about it like everyone's seen it. But so band's playing while couples like running through, the members playing the song. So everything had to be timed out exactly. Like, okay, you're going to be running through the kitchen at 27 seconds. And there was basically no wiggle room. So here, in this shot here, once again, we'll have some BTS pop up. But basically, there's a Forza 500 outside this window here. And it's with a Fresnel blasting in. And haze is also your friend when you're trying to take that hot high end off of harder lights. So we knew that like we didn't want to diffuse the lights. Like we wanted those harsher shadows, like the way the guitar is cutting here. Like so we're getting that kind of double imagery that I think just looks great. But in order to get a shadow like this, you need to do like the Fresnel lens coming in, and the haze just helps soften or raise the shadows up so it doesn't look so much film noir, but you can kind of get your own looks.
And then in terms of like the rest of that shoot, like it was pretty much all done with Forzas on the ground level. So like that day, I don't remember fully, but it wasn't super sunny. Like the Forzas did a lot of like.
It was pretty overcast. And here's another little hack. I'll go to a frame that is kind of fun if you ever find yourself in a spot where you're just allowed to do whatever. So if you're ever looking to hide light stands outside, plaster newspapers all over the windows because the Forza 500 is right there, and we could see the combo stand, I forgot to draw. There we go. Forza 500 there. You could see this stand right here as Night is Day. And we were just like, well, it's supposed to be a war zone. The couple's fighting. So let's just plaster newspaper everywhere that we don't want people to see stuff.
The liberties that you can take when you're doing a music video. I mean, try that with a commercial client. You might get away with it. You never know.
Sometimes hiding things in plain sight is the way to go.
I didn't even know the combo stand was there.
I did. That's why the newspaper's there.
All right, let's take a look at another type of product that Nanlite offers, the PavoTube, which is essentially, you guys have seen it. It's the one right behind me. It's like a long tube. Comes in a bunch of different lengths. They're RGB controllable, which is sweet. We use these a lot, so it was kind of hard to find a project that just use the PavoTube. But last year when we shot in Hale, which is a short doc, we're at the aquarium in Toronto, and for those of you that have been, it's very dark, but it's got a lot of cool vibes in it. And we had an hour and a half with the place to ourselves, and it's typically a pretty busy place. So we knew we wanted to get as much coverage as we could for the doc, but also be smart with the time that we had. And really, Brian, the director, wanted to capture a lot of candid moments. So we couldn't bring in lights, and I mean, there's a million spots for reflection. I think even in this BTS photo, you can see the reflection. So that's another thing to keep in mind with tube lights. So the Pavos are battery powered, which
are going to save you so often when there's two of you, you're running through a place that like you're not necessarily supposed to be filming, or they're like, you have 10 minutes to get this. And also, if you catch a reflection of a tube in a glass, mirror, anything reflective, tube lights just look like fluorescent lights in your location.
Yeah, and then, in this shot specifically here, like, I was running around with the PavoTube. Nick was filming, Brian was directing, and, not a big crew. So I had the PavoTube on RGB mode. Nick would just be like, hey, hold it here. Let's try to match it to whatever the room was giving us, which was a bunch of colored lights.
Pretty easy operating system with the knobs and tube, because, yeah, we were definitely figuring it on the fly. I was like, just make crazy rainbow colors come out of it, and he got it there. It was like flickering red and yellow and green. I was like, yeah, that's cool.
So as you guys can see in this scene right here, so there's already a lot of like red, green, crazy color lights going on. So Nick's obviously right here with the camera, and I am probably just out of frame here, I want to say. And you can see on the back of them, actually, there's a little color green slash. And then if we go forward to the next shot, that is the PavoTube that you guys see in the behind the scenes making that little edge.
Yeah, so we would have walked that in. And here is another little tip for anybody. Your wides don't ever have to match your close-ups that religiously. Like, they can be as different, and once you see things cut in, it all flows. Like, I've definitely seen things where the key switches between characters just because, you're trying to make every frame look as good as possible, and you can just break the rules all the time because in the edit, nobody notices.
Yeah, especially in an edit like this. I mean, this scene is you're bouncing back and forth between a million different spots in the aquarium. Who's to say that, something doesn't change? But the PavoTube, super handy for a scene like this. It also was a key light in this scene that we shot a couple weeks ago, actually. This was a fun one.
Yeah, okay. So this was a scene we're doing for a boxing component for a larger commercial. And so this is the locker room scene where the boxer's like getting amped up. He's like trying to psych himself up for the fight. And basically the whole lighting setup for this one is one overhead PavoTube kind of right here set to daylight. And I'm white balancing camera to, I want to say around 3,800, 4,000, just because we're getting that blue push. And then another little hack for people here is if you take a strip of gaff tape and just put it along one side of the tube, it'll act as like a little flag to keep that light from spilling on kind of this back wall here and focus all the light on your subject. Also, getting your talent to look directly into the light, always a win. You get an eye light, you get nicer shape. So as much as it's important to figure out like your lighting and pushing it through 8x8s and softer it comes from larger relative source, it's like the angle to which you direct talent's face plays a huge impact on how that light is perceived.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how something simple like one light lit this whole scene. It's just knowing a few different tricks. But I mean, these tubes are great because in a small room like this where you're trying to go for something moodier,
that and like running power through this is not really an option.
Yeah,
like I think the outlet was down by his right shoulder, I want to say, I remember. So if we had an extension cord running to a powered light, like we would have had to tuck it back here, hide it down the back. And frankly, we just didn't have the time. We were at the end of our rental time for the location. So it's like you put up a painter's pole, you put the PavoTube right up here, and Bob's your uncle. You're good to go.
Yeah, something that could take 10 or 20 minutes, could have taken hours to set up, if we did it differently. We just didn't have hours. So the battery-powered lights are great. So if you guys have any questions about any of those setups or about the Forza, the PavoTube, let Nick and I know in the comments, and I think we'll be jumping to a live stream. The other product that we didn't really mention is the MixPanel 150. Nick and I actually took that on a road trip to Calgary earlier this year, and we used it there. We don't have a ton of BTS from it, but great light, very similar to the G260, which we're going to talk about in the Let Go segment. But it's a great little compact traveling light for sure.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to the G260, less output, but some of the advantages are it has like a hard and soft mode. So if you're more of like a 1 to 2 person crew and you can be putting up larger silks or diffusing it, like there are these like little options in it that can get you different looks quickly, as sometimes, speed is the name of the game.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of lights that pack up to travel too. All right, if you guys have any questions, let us know. Thanks for watching, and be sure to come back for the Let Go one that we're doing after this.
All right, that was awesome. So we are going to open up the floor to questions. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to add Nick and Derek to the convo. Let me see if I can make myself smaller. Let's see here. So let's see here. All right, so we've got a lot of people just commenting about the owners of who own the product, so that's cool. Man, you guys are like, let's see if I can make it a little, if I can adjust it at all. You guys are like
this is the best
snug.
position to be here in 2020. Living in another person's face.
I know, man. All right, good to hear. Forza 500 is comparable to the 575. What would you compare the Forza 300 to if someone wanted to get an idea of the output?
A lesser version of the Forza 500.
Yeah, there we go. Like, do you think it's is it significant? Like, do you think it's worth the difference in price?
Oh, the price difference or the output difference?
Like the output, like obviously it's going to be a price difference for more power. Do you think you think it's a noticeable difference in output between the 500 and the 300?
Yeah. I would say actually the Forza 300 with the Fresnel is closer to a 575, and the 500 I was actually put up against a Joker 800 with the Fresnel.
Okay.
I can use it. So big props to the 500. I use it all the time. I think that is a punchy light, and I haven't seen anything in LED at that price range that come close.
I would say if you're looking at the two and the price, it's obviously the biggest difference between the two. Go for the 500. You'll always want more power. As we said in the part before, it's just go for more power.
Yeah. Do you use when you use the 500? Do you use a softbox or do you bounce it through a scrim? Because I know a lot of your diagrams, you guys use scrims a lot for to soften the light.
I'm a bigger fan of like diffusion than bounce, only because like my brain can wrap around a lot better. Like when I see the direction of the light pushing through diffusion, I can just see the angle of it. Anything with like a book light or like bouncing it off, I'm an idiot. So I just like I pointed in the bounce, but like my brain doesn't do well with like, okay, now it's going this direction. It's also much harder to control bounced light, like it just spills everywhere. So I would much rather double diffuse and flag off, or even single diffuse, just because I think it's for my brain an easier way to control it and get a similar result.
I would say the Forza 500 though, I mean, we're less using it as a light for a key, more of like if it's going outside, like we said in the video, or it's going to be like that slash in the background through outside. And then we pair it sometimes with some key lights, but I would say we use the hard light more outside for like, if it's not a sunny day, like in that one per game video, we're using it as that.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so I got Colton down here is asking about ways to combat greater control over the fan or temperature monitoring using the app connections so we can manage the noise level further. I will answer that one and just say that, Colton, there is a major overhaul to the app coming out very soon, either next month or January. It's very soon, so winter of 2020, 2021. And so we'll see. I'll have to double check about what kind of controls that they have in the app, because if you want to manage the fan or the dimming curves and things of that nature. So stay tuned. Stay tuned to our social media accounts, and so you can get some more information about the app and things of that nature. But that's a great question, so it's good about that. Hey, if you're going to compare bouncing through a scrim, because obviously different, right tool for the job. Like if you're using the G260, I know this is an Nanlite question, but just to get an idea of a panel, because you guys did say that you use the G260 quite a bit. If you're using that through as a soft light in the Forza 500, How would you compare the output, like, using the 500 as a book light and shooting the G260 LEDGO panel through a scrim?
I'd say the Forza 500 as a book light is probably still brighter. Just different. They're different tools for different jobs. Like, I would never even equate panels for hard lights. Like, if I think you should always try to own one of each, because they just do completely different things in my mind. But probably there's definitely more output in the Forza 500. One thing I like about the G260, which we're talking about later, is the option to throw a grid on. So I just think you can like so much control without having to use the floppy to kill spill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, I mean, we can't move the camera right now, but the videos are lit with the Forza 300. Like, the top light that's on us is very similar to that fencing scene. It's lit with the Forza 300. So, I mean, and they're, I don't know, I want to say like, it's at like 40% right now. It's our key. So, barely even on.
Yeah.
And we have 2 stops on the
Yeah, we had a production here, like in the end of the summer, and they were doing a corporate shoot, and they had both LEDGO and Nanlite, and they had the Forza 500 through their parabolic 150, which is like the biggest softbox that we make, and they had it at 10%.
Oh, it's insane how much output there is. Like, I parked the Forza outside like 20 feet back from like windows at night, and I've had people on set being like, "Is the sun out there?" And we're like, "No, that's LED now for you." So
yeah, I mean, I think that music video where you see the blue light in the background that I showed, I mean, it's at, I think, 7%, and it was almost too bright at that. Like, I think we brought that down in camera still with LED. So, yeah,
Cool.
It's bright.
Nice. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I think that will do it for us.
502 is best quality of light I've seen out of any LED hard light.
Yeah, Forza 500. Yeah.
100%. I've done tests with other similar lights, and like just the tint shift, and it's like you just look at skin tones out of the Forza stuff, and you're like, requires very little correction in post.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of gaffers here in LA who've or guys that own grip trucks that have replaced their 575. A lot of hard lights, like really powerful lights, and Joker 800s with the Forza 500s. Like, the thing is, and I'll talk about this tomorrow in our time slot about who is Nanlite, what is it, who are they for? For our company, a lot of people will say, Nanlite is for, different segments of the market. We start with Nanlite, we go up to LEDGO, and then we peak at Nanlux. But the thing is like, that's kind of true overall for the whole brand for Nanlite. But a lot of products in the Nanlite catalog, professionals use. Now, we do have some more prosumer and entry-level products in the Nanlite catalog, but the Forzas, the MixPanels, and the Compact 200s are used by a lot of professionals. The Compact 200 are
they're being
very
used on commercials that
Go
we're
ahead.
doing, and we know people that are using them as well. So, I mean, like, I would say that, especially for us being in a smaller geographical market, we have less resources in terms of like rental houses available to us. So for us, it's like 2 hours to go to a rental house.
Yeah.
That's why Nick and I own so much gear, is because if we have a shoot come up, we don't want to have to drive 2 hours to go get gear for a single day or 2 day shoot. So as a producer or a production company or even just a gaffer, if you own these lights, they're actually attainable to own.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, you use what you said, the Forza 500 was your carry-on.
Yeah. I had that, and my buddy had a Pelican 1535, so it's like the same size.
Yeah. See, that's so useful. Yeah, that's really cool. So let's see what else do we have here. How does the light render on a DSC chart based on the camera's output on a vector scope? You know what? If you want to check out Gaffer and Gear's YouTube channel, he does a pretty exhaustive review, and he covers stuff like that about the Forza 500. His name's Andrew Locke. He's a great, really good gaffer that does a very in-depth review. He's a very intelligent guy and really covers a lot of questions like that. But you know, we have a C800 Sekonic, you know, color meter here, and you know the planking curve is really low. It's like 0001. You know, your R9s or R12s are really high, so it's really color accurate. So there's not really a significant amount of shift in either direction in the low and the high settings. If you want to ask, you know, that's usually a lot of questions people ask, like, well, does it color shift at the lower settings versus the higher? And it doesn't really, like, you know, what hot lights are normally used to doing. So that's really a good advantage about LED, is that you can have, you know, solid state lighting where it'll stay the same, you know, throughout its intensity levels. So good question, lighting, video, TV. So was there anything else you guys want to add before we call it a wrap? Because I got
If you watch the Ladgo one, because we got some good breakdowns for that one too.
Yeah, so we were going to give away the Light 5C to a person that left a comment or asked a question, and we will contact them directly at the end of the day, and we will send you a free Light 5C. So yeah, so if you guys want to keep the conversation going and see some more work from Derek and Nick, head on over to the Let Go channel, and we should start in the next 7 minutes. So with that, folks, we want to thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned, and we'll talk to you next time. All right, take care. See you soon, guys.
Yeah.